Hi everyone, this is Jimmy. Welcome back to Jimmy Exploit. And in today's video, we'll be doing some Go basics to use the HTTP package to do some GET requests. And the reason I'm doing this video is because I was trying to do another video about using Go scripting to solve the Swigger's race condition in labs instead of just using the perp suite or just using the turbo intruder. So because most people don't write Go, so it's gonna be harder for them to follow up. So I'm just gonna be doing the basics first, and then we're gonna be moving to using the scripts to solve the Swigger labs. Okay, this is my blog. It's gonna be, you're gonna find it under blog. You're gonna have a lot of cool stuff. You can find some CD analysis. You can find some HTTP hack the box boxes, some Active Directory stuff, and you can find some series. You can find this series about Go. It's called Breaking Things with Go. This series is not authentic writing. It's gonna be my takes on this book, The Learning Go Idiomatic Approach by John Bodners. Okay, so if you needed anything, you can just check this one out. If you're not familiar with the HTTP, I'm not gonna go deep in this one. You can just check it using just Google. But if you're not familiar with HTTP, we can just say that it's some kind of protocol that helps the client and the server to communicate with each other. So it's just some set of rules, just like any other protocol, but it defines how the data is going to exchange between the browser, which is the client, and the web server. Whenever you type a URL into your address bar or click a link, this one is going to send an HTTP request to that server, and that server is going to take some time to process your request, and it's going to be responding back to you using a response. Okay, and you can find this model here, and sorry for the flashbang, but you're gonna find that you send a request to the server, and this server is gonna process your data, and it's gonna respond to you with a response. Okay, what are the basic request should look like? You're gonna have this one, which is a method. This one defines or tells the server what are we trying to accomplish using this request. If we're just trying to fetch a page, we're gonna be using the get request or the get method. If we're trying to send the data to the browser, we're gonna be using the post method. And actually you can use get to send data to the server, but it's not safe, and it's recommended to use the post. And then we have this slash, which is the path to the resource that we're trying to access. So if we're trying to do to the admin dashboard, for example, we can use slash admin, or if we're trying to access our profile, we're gonna be going to slash profile. So it's just the path to the resource that we're trying to access. And this HTTP 101 is going to be the version of HTTP, and we have three versions. There's 101 and there's 2 and there's 3. So this one, you can explicitly define the client to use a specific HTTP version, but this version has to be supported by the server. So both of them have to use the exact same version. Okay, and you have this headers. It's gonna be some data that is trying to help, that will try to help the server to process your data. So if you're sending some kind of JSON data, you have to specify the content type to be JSON, otherwise it might error out on the other end because it didn't understand what this data is. Okay, and the other or the last thing in the request is going to be the body. That's where the actual data lives in. That's what are you trying to send to the server. And because we said the get request is usually used to just fetch a page, it doesn't have a body. And if you're trying to use the get request to send the data to the body, to the server, you're going to be using the path, instead using something known as the query parameters. Okay, but in the post or in the even delete and patch and put, you're going to be using the body to embed your data. Okay, so with that being said, we can just move into identifying or explaining how to use the GET requests in Go. Okay, on my server, on my PC, sorry, I have this HTTP server, the Python server, which is in HTTP server, listening and parsing the data in a specific way. I'm just trying to make it a little bit like the burp, you know, instead of just opening burp, I'm just gonna be parsing it this here. And if we try to access this by doing curl HTTP 127.0.0.1 on 8080, and looked on the other side, you're gonna find it parsed right here. If you used something like python-m http.server, which is the actual package my parser based on, or my server based on, and if we did a request to the 8000 instead of 8080, you're gonna find that it doesn't parse the request, it just tells you, logs the requests you send. It's gonna tell you that there is a GET request came in at this time, and it accessed this path, and we have the HTTP version, and it's gonna tell you that the response was 200. Okay, but in this case, because we're gonna be showing it's an explanatory video, I need to show you how the requests on the other end looks like. So in this case, I need to use this one to, you know, make it a little bit clearer. Okay, so to do requests in Go, we have to use the HTTP package, and it's a standard package provided by Go itself. And to do a GET request in Go, there's two ways to do it. There's the simple way, and we use this one if we don't need to add any custom behavior to the request, like adding a custom header or a custom behavior, something like adding a timeout or a proxy. And there's the easy way, and there's the complicated way if we need to add a header, or we need to add a, you know, a timeout or anything. Okay, so let's just start with the easy one. We're gonna be doing http.get. This one just accepts a URL. The URL, as we said, is gonna be the path to the resource that we're trying to access. So let's say I'm trying to fetch this page here, which is gonna be HTTP. I'll be connecting to my localhost on 8080, and if we did http.get to http 127.0.0.1 on 8080 and save this one, you're gonna see that it's by default importing this package, not the HTTP. And if we did go run main.go, just run this one, okay, go run main.go, this one is gonna show you that the request, okay, yes, and the request just appeared on the other end. As you can see, the user agent, this user agent header just tells the server what kind of client is trying to connect to you, and this, in this case, we are using Go, so it's gonna show that it's the Go HTTP client, and it's gonna show the host, which is 127.0.0.1. Okay, so this is the simple way to do a GET request in Go. What this one return, usually we're gonna need some information coming back from this request, so we're gonna be doing something like this. It's gonna be RESP and error, and you're gonna be handling the error usually something like if error not equal nil. You're gonna do fmt, or even, sorry, we're gonna log the print in this error. But you know, through this video, I'm not gonna go through the error handling, so I'm just gonna replace it with underscore. And what this tells Go, usually in Go, you have to, any variable that you define, you have to use it somewhere in your code, and if you didn't, it's gonna do a runtime error, a compiling error, not runtime. So if you need to ignore this variable, you're just gonna use an underscore. Okay, so in this case, I'm gonna do the response. This is the response that came back from this client. Okay, what is this response? The response is a pointer to, as you can see, if we hovered over this, you can see it is a pointer to h from the type http.response, and this type has a lot of stuff. This isn't just the text of the body or the body returned by the server, but instead it has a lot of stuff. You can have resp.body, which is we'll be talking about, and we have the status, we have the header, and we have also the status code. Okay, so we'll start with the easy ones. If we did fmt.println to print line using the resp.header, let's take a look how this one is going to look like. This is going to show you a map using the header key and the value to the headers from the response. Okay, and the same can be done with the others. We can do the status and we can do the status code. Okay, and I guess we can also do the head. We did the headers already, so if we ran this one more, we're gonna see the exact headers again, but we're gonna have the 200, okay, which is the status, and the status code, which is 200, and 200 means that the request was successful and we got a response back. Now we usually use the response to read the actual body, but the trick with the body, it isn't just a string or a map, it's an interface. It's an IO read closer, which is an interface that represents a stream of bytes coming over a network or any kind of read closer. Okay, and if you're not familiar with the interfaces, you have to read more about it, because I can't explain it right now. It's gonna take days to explain what is interfaces, but because this one, as we said, it is an interface IO.read closer. This means this one implements the RESP. If we look at the RESP.body, okay, you're gonna see that this one is IO.read closer, and because it is an IO.read closer, it means we can use the close method and the read method on it. Okay, the close method is part we usually do defer to resp.body close, and what defer mean, it's just gonna schedule execution for this function, but exactly before the main function or the surrounding function return. And because we're using this in the main function, so right before main returns, it's gonna be executing this function first. Okay, and here comes the other part, which is the reading. We need to read the actual body now, and to do this we'll be using the io.readAll. This one is just using the IO package to read all the bytes from the slice. So it's basically gonna drain the entire stream but into the bytes for slice. Okay, so to do this, we're gonna do the body, which is the actual body, and error IO read all, and we're gonna give it the resp.body. Okay, now we said I don't care about the error, so I'm just gonna specify it as underscore, and now we can do the print len, the fmt.println to print the actual body, which is gonna be a string, because this one is a slice of bytes. We need to convert it to a string first, and we're gonna do body. If we send the exact same request, it's gonna show a status received, which is the response I'm sending from this server that we started, and you can see that it is the exact same request we sent before. Just one more thing I forgot to mention, if we need to specify or access a specific header, we can do, let's say we need to print it, so print len to resp.header.get, and we'll give it the header that we're trying to do. Let's say we need the content type, and if we run this one more time, it's going to show you the headers and then the application JSON, which is the value of this header, the content type. And this is the easy way. As we said, you just do a request to this URL and nothing else need to be done except using or accessing the data you return. Okay, but sometimes we need to add a custom behavior to our exploit, something like adding a custom header or adding a timeout. So the http.get, this creates uses the default client, so it doesn't provide the control we need, and we have to create our own client and request to add this controls. Okay, so the client will customize the client behavior like the timeouts and the proxies, and the request that we're gonna make will customize the request like adding headers. We can create the client using this. We can just do client, which is gonna be the pointer to http.client. Okay, let's say we need to add a timeout, so we're gonna do the timeout is gonna be, that's because we're using the default client. We said I need to use a client, and in this one we'll be using the timeout to be let's say we need to add a 10 seconds of timeout. And what this means, we're telling the client if the request take more than 10 seconds to come back, you just exit with an error. So if we get time.second, so we'll be waiting for a 10 seconds. Okay, now this is the client. This client needs a request to send, so we're gonna be doing a request, which is http.new request, and this one takes us three things. It's gonna take the method and the URL and the body. And because we're doing a get request, for now we're not gonna be using a body, so we're gonna do the get method, and we're gonna specify the exact same URL 127.0.0.1L80, and the body is nil, which is a nil. Now we have this client and we have this request. So let's say we said earlier that the client is gonna customize the client behavior, and the request is gonna customize the request behavior. So if I need to add a headers, we can do a rec.header, okay, to set one, or we can do add header. And the difference between both of them, the set one is gonna two keys, the exact same key, duplicate it, it's gonna be overwriting the first one, but the add is gonna be just appending, so it might cause the duplicate for the headers, and it might be causing an issue if the server is strict about having a duplicated headers. Okay, so let's say we are gonna be adding a header called authorization, for example, and this one will have the let's say token 123, for example, and we're gonna add another one which is gonna be the accept header, which is gonna be accepting an application. Let's say instead of JSON, which is a default, as you can see here, instead of this, there's actually no one, so let's specify this one to the application.json. Okay, now we have our customized client and our customized header, our customized request. So to do the actual request, we're gonna be doing the exact same response and underscore because we don't care about the error, and we'll be doing clients.do and the request. Okay, and the data access is gonna be exactly the same. You use header to return all the headers, and you can even loop over them if you need to print all them all at once, and it's all the same thing. If we now try to do run for the application and look here, we're gonna find that we got request, and this time we had a two new headers that didn't appear right here, and you can see we have the accept, which is going to be the application.json, and the token, which is the in the authorization header. So you might be wondering, why do we, we're doing all this just to do the exact same thing like http.get, but adding some more headers. So how did the http.get do it on its own? So the exact same thing that http.header http.get did, it was like this. It made a client using the http, but instead of adding a client and adding a customized behavior, it's going to be using the default client, and it's going to do a request, okay, to http.new request, to also the get and the http to 127.0.0.1 at 8080, okay, and it's gonna have a nil to the body, and it's gonna do the exact same thing because we don't need any customized behavior to the requests. This one does client due to the request, and let's get our response back. Okay, so this one is the exact same thing as the http.get and then giving it the URL. So just to explain what happened when we use this one. Okay, so now we're done about using the get requests. You might wonder, how are we gonna deal about the response? I'll be doing another video about how to parse a different types of responses, maybe JSON data, forums, or any type of data that we're trying to get back from the server. But for now, we're gonna be, dealing with the requests only. Okay, just one more thing before we go. We said that there is a way to send a data to the server using a get requests, and to do this it's going to be http.get, the exact same thing. Let's do, let's delete this. We don't care about this anymore. If we did a client, or let's do a client, just a client, and it's gonna be an http.default client for now, and the request is gonna be the http.new request for the get, and http 127.0.0.1 at 8080, and specify the body to be nl. So to send the data to the server using a get request, we use something called the URL parameter or the query parameters. And to do this, we're just gonna add in a question mark and then the key, and then it's gonna be the value. So if we need to send a value 123, which is expected by the server to be passed using a key called q, we're gonna be doing it this way. Okay, so if we did this, and then we did client.do for the request, okay, if we ran this program and we looked at the server, we'll get this request. It's going to show you that the path for the resource was this, and it has the queue equal to 1 to 3. And as you know, the server doesn't get the data this way, or sorry, doesn't get the request this way. It's just the way I parse it. It's going to show you that there is a query parameters called queue and has the value 1 to 3. Okay, this is because we only have a fixed value that we're trying to add to the request. But let's say you need to add a value from an input. So to do this, you're gonna, let's say you got your input somehow, and you're gonna do the value, which is gonna be, let's say for now, we're gonna be simulating if you got a data from an input, and then we're gonna be the URL. We just created a variable, and the URL, we're gonna do the, to format a string format, and we're gonna do HTTP 127.0.0.1 at 8080, and we're gonna give it the Q1, which is the key, and the value we're gonna have a placeholder for a string, and then we're gonna be pass the value. And then instead of using this one, we're just gonna do a URL, and this one is a string anyway, so it's not gonna cause an issue. And let's change this for now. Let's do 456 and send the exact same requests but with a different value, and you're gonna find that we got the request here. Okay, so this isn't an ideal way to do it, and I'm gonna tell you why. Sometimes it isn't just a data just like this 456. Sometimes it has a spaces, or let's say spaces and a special character, something like an and or at. So if we try to send this one to the server, if you look, we see that we don't get the client is back, but we didn't get a request on the server end, and that's because this isn't encoded. It was embedded as an actual string with its spaces and special characters, so it broke the requests. And because we don't handle the request error, so that's probably that's why it didn't show an error. Okay, so the right way to do this one is gonna be using the URL package. To do it, we're gonna first create an empty map, and this empty map, let's click Q for now. We're gonna do URL values, and this one we're just gonna create an empty map, and then we're gonna be adding the keys and the values for the parameters using this map. So if I did q.add and I did q, let's say, and then the value 1 to 3, and I'm gonna add a new one. For example, let's say x is equal to 456. Okay, and this now is a map. You can just pass this one to the to the requests, because this is a map. It isn't a string. So to do this, let's just do this one. Before, we have to specify the URL before 0.1 8080. Okay, you have to specify the request before adding the URL parameters. And for now, what we need to do, we have to encode this one. Let's add the exact same things we added before, spaces and special characters. What we need to do to encode this one, and then we can convert all this map to a string to be in the form of key and value, and it actually provides us with a function that does this, or a method. We're gonna be doing request to url.row query, and this one encodes, as you can see, it encodes a query values without having the question mark. Okay, so if you did query, and this one is going to be equal to q.encode, and if you look at the definition of this q.encode, you can say that it will sort the map, and then it's gonna escape the query key, and it's gonna escape the value, and it's just doing that. It's gonna do print the key as a string, and it's gonna add this to a buffer, and then it's gonna add the value after the escaping, and just gonna return this buffer back to us. Okay, so this is just an easy way to do all this parsing and converting. Okay, and if we did the exact same thing, we're sending requests with go.run for main.go. If we looked at the server, you can find that we actually got a request. I know it looks a little bit weird, but it's an actual request. This is the Q1, which is all the special characters. Then it has an add character, which is gonna tell it that that's a new parameter with the key x and the value 456. Okay, one more thing. If you have some some fixed values, like having a a parameter called y for a 798. Okay, if you send this one, it's gonna overwrite this y and it's gonna be deleted. It's not gonna be sent to the server. And if you looked here, you find that we got the exact same request without the y. And why this happens? Because we initialize a new url.values instead of getting the old value. So what we need to do, we do rec.url.query. This one, as you can see, this is gonna parse the raw query and it's gonna return it to the map. So instead of creating a new map, it's gonna create a map with the existing one already. So when we add, we're gonna be appending to the map instead of just overriding the old one. Okay, and you see that we got a new one called y798. Okay, and that was it for the get requests. And the next video is gonna be probably about the posts first, and then we're gonna be dealing with the responses of these all requests. Okay, so have a good one and see you in the next video.